Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone, and welcome to this e-learning session on the sense of pain and temperature. I'm Dr. C.M. Nasrul, and today we will dive into how the body detects pain and temperature, the role of nociception and analgesic systems, and what happens when these systems go awry. By the end of this session, you should be able to describe the nociceptive system, explain analgesic systems and referred pain mechanisms, and understand abnormalities in nociception. Let's start by reviewing our learning outcomes for today. First, you can describe the nociceptive system, how our body detects and processes painful stimuli. We'll then explain how our body suppresses pain through analgesic systems, and what referred pain is. Lastly, we'll look at the consequences of abnormalities in nociception, which can lead to conditions like chronic pain. Nociception is the body's mechanism for detecting harmful or potentially harmful stimuli. It serves as an alarm system to alert us to injuries and prompt protective behaviors. The nociceptive system involves specialized sensory receptors known as nociceptors, which are found in the skin, muscles, and other tissues. The International Association for the Study of Pain defines pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience. It's not just a simple reaction to injury. It involves complex processing in the brain. Among the most distinctive of all the sensory modalities, pricking, burning, aching, stinging, and soreness. Pain can range from acute, which serves a protective function, to chronic, which can be debilitating and serves no clear purpose. We'll also touch on a rare condition called congenital insensitivity to pain, where individuals are unable to feel pain, often leading to unnoticed severe injuries. As I mentioned before, pain comes in different forms. Acute pain serves as an immediate warning, while persistent pain is often why patients seek medical help. Chronic pain, which persists long after an injury has healed, can be particularly challenging as it doesn't serve any useful purpose and can significantly impact quality of life. Congenital insensitivity to pain, or CIP, is a rare genetic condition where individuals cannot feel pain. This might sound like a superpower, but in reality, it can lead to severe injuries, as people with CIP don't receive the body's warning signals about harm. Figures A and B and C and D described how this condition affects children. One key point to remember is that pain perception is subjective. The same injury might feel more or less painful depending on context, stress levels, or even previous experiences. For instance, athletes may not notice pain during competition, and soldiers may only feel pain after leaving a battlefield. Next, we will learn about the nociceptors. Nociceptors are specialized receptors that respond to harmful stimuli. They can be thermal, mechanical, or polymodal, meaning they respond to heat, pressure, or a mix of stimuli. We'll look at how these receptors work and their distribution across the body. When nociceptors detect harmful stimuli, they generate electrical signals called action potentials, which travel to the brain. The speed at which these signals are transmitted depends on the type of nerve fibers involved. Fast pain, like a sharp sting, travels along A delta fibers, while slow, aching pain is carried by C fibers. Nociceptors are activated by extreme temperatures or intense mechanical forces. The activation of these receptors triggers a cascade of signals that lead to the perception of pain. Interestingly, silent nociceptors are normally inactive but become sensitized during inflammation. One of the key molecular players in pain perception is the TRPV1 receptor, which responds to heat and chemical irritants like capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers. We'll discuss how ion channels, such as TRPV1, play a role in the conversion of stimuli into electrical signals. Alright, class, let's talk about some important ion channels that play a role in how we perceive pain, particularly related to temperature and certain chemicals. You may have heard of the TRP family of ion channels. Let's start with TRPV1. Does anyone know why spicy food, like chili peppers, makes your mouth feel like it's on fire? Capsaicin is the active ingredient in hot peppers. It triggers the TRPV1 receptor. This receptor is also known as the heat receptor because it's activated by temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. That's about the temperature where we start to feel pain from heat. So, in a way, when you eat spicy food, you're tricking your body into thinking it's burning. Another interesting thing about TRPV1 is that it becomes more sensitive in acidic environments, like those found in inflammation. This is why areas of injury often feel more painful. The drop in pH makes these receptors fire more. Now, let's move on to TRPM8. This is a different type of channel. Does anyone want to guess what sensation this receptor is responsible for? TRPM8 is a cold-sensing receptor, and it also responds to menthol, which is why things like mint or mentholated creams feel cool on the skin. Interestingly, this receptor can also be involved in cold hypersensitivity, especially in patients undergoing chemotherapy with drugs like oxaliplatin. They often experience extreme cold sensitivity, which is thought to be linked to TRPM8 being overactivated. Finally, we have TRPA1. This receptor is a bit more versatile. It responds to a wide variety of chemical irritants. For example, it's activated by mustard oil and garlic. And, believe it or not, TRPA1 also responds to certain air pollutants. So, if you've ever felt a burning sensation in your nose or throat after exposure to something like smoke, TRPA1 could be to blame. This receptor is like the body's way of detecting chemical irritants and potential toxins. Each receptor is specialized to detect specific types of stimuli, whether it's heat, cold, or chemical irritants. And together, they help our body sense and respond to potentially harmful conditions. Now, let's talk about bradykinin, an important chemical that our body produces during tissue injury or inflammation. Does anyone know what role bradykinin plays when we're injured? Bradykinin is one of the major molecules that makes an injury feel painful. It does this by binding to G-protein-coupled receptors on the surface of nerve cells, specifically on what we call primary afferent neurons. These are the neurons that send pain signals to the brain. But how does it actually make us feel pain? Let's break it down. So, when bradykinin binds to these G-protein-coupled receptors, it kicks off a chain of reactions inside the cell. First, it activates an enzyme called phospholipase C, or PLC for short. This enzyme breaks down a lipid in the cell membrane called PIP2. PIP2, or phosphatidylinisidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylidylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylydylyd down by phospholipase C, it produces something called IP3, which stands for inositol 1,4,5-trisphosphate. Now, what does IP3 do? It triggers the release of calcium, Ca2+, from stores inside the cell. Calcium is a critical signal in cells. When calcium is released, it activates other proteins, including protein kinase C or PKC. PKC is important because it regulates the activity of certain ion channels in the nerve cell membrane. In this case, it helps regulate the TRPV1 channel. Now, you might remember that TRPV1 is the channel that responds to heat and spicy chemicals like capsaicin. When PKC is activated by the calcium, it sensitizes the TRPV1 channel, meaning that it makes the channel more responsive to pain signals. As a result, the TRPV1 channel opens up, allowing more calcium to flow into the cell from the outside, which amplifies the pain signal being sent to the brain. Bradykinin lowers the threshold for TRPV1 activation, meaning it takes less of a stimulus, like heat or inflammation, to cause the channel to open and trigger a pain response. That's why areas of injury or inflammation often feel more painful than normal. It's the body's way of ensuring we protect the injured area. Mutations in specific genes, like SCN9A, can have profound effects on pain perception. For example, mutations in this gene can lead to insensitivity to pain, as seen in individuals with congenital insensitivity to pain, or they can cause a condition called erythromelalgia, where patients experience intense burning pain in their extremities. These genetic factors provide insight into how the nervous system processes pain and highlight potential targets for pain management therapies. Key concept is that genetic mutations like those in SCN9A can lead to altered pain perception, from insensitivity to extreme pain. Pathological pain conditions arise when nociceptors become overactive or overly sensitive. Allodynia occurs when non-painful stimuli, like a light touch, cause pain. Hyperalgesia is when noxious stimuli cause exaggerated pain responses. Both conditions are common in chronic pain disorders like fibromyalgia, and they highlight the complexity of the nervous system's response to injury. Key concept. Pathological pain states can arise from an oversensitization of nociceptors. Conditions like allodynia and hyperalgesia are central to understanding chronic pain. Alright, let's discuss two major types of hyperalgesia: nociceptive pain and neuropathic pain. These are the two categories that most types of pain fall into, and understanding the difference is important for treatment. Let's start with nociceptive pain. Can anyone tell me what nociceptors are? Nociceptors are specialized nerve endings found in the skin, muscles, and soft tissues. They get activated when there's tissue injury, like when you sprain your ankle or cut your finger. The activation of nociceptors leads to nociceptive pain, which is the most common type of pain we feel. It usually happens with inflammation and serves as the body's warning system to protect the injured area. Now, there are different levels of nociceptive pain. For example, a simple sprain or strain will produce a milder form of nociceptive pain. Think about how your ankle might throb after twisting it. But then there are more severe forms, like pain caused by arthritis or a tumor that invades soft tissues. These are much more intense because of the level of tissue damage and ongoing inflammation. Nociceptive pain is typically treated with anti-inflammatory drugs called NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen or aspirin. These drugs help by reducing inflammation, which is often the main cause of pain in these cases. But when the pain is more severe, such as with cancer pain or post-surgical pain, we might use opiates like morphine. These medications work by dampening the pain signals in the brain. Now, let's shift to a different type of pain: neuropathic pain. This pain isn't caused by damage to the skin or tissues, but by direct injury to the nerves themselves, either in the peripheral nervous system, PNS, or the central nervous system, CNS. This type of pain often feels like a burning or electric shock sensation, and it can be much more difficult to treat. Neuropathic pain can happen after various types of nerve damage. For example, complex regional pain syndrome can occur after even minor injuries to a limb's peripheral nerve, causing severe, long-lasting pain. Another example is postherpetic neuralgia, which happens after a bout of shingles. The pain can be extreme and long-lasting. We also see trigeminal neuralgia, which is an intense, shooting pain in the face that results from a problem with the trigeminal nerve. Phantom limb pain is another form of neuropathic pain. It occurs after someone has had a limb amputated, but they still feel pain in the limb that's no longer there. This happens because the nerves that used to supply the limb continue sending pain signals, even though the limb is gone. Neuropathic pain is tricky because it doesn't respond well to NSAIDs or opiates. This is because those medications target inflammation or block pain signals from tissues, but neuropathic pain involves the nerves themselves being damaged. Because of this, we usually turn to medications like anticonvulsants or antidepressants, which help reduce the nerve activity responsible for the pain. So, to sum up, nociceptive pain is caused by tissue injury and responds well to anti-inflammatory drugs or opiates, while neuropathic pain results from nerve damage and usually requires different treatments because it doesn't respond well to typical painkillers. Let's now test your knowledge. Which type of nociceptor is primarily activated by intense pressure applied to the skin? What type of mutation in the SCN9A gene leads to erythromelalgia? These questions will help reinforce key points about nociceptors and genetic influences on pain perception.